Welcome to the Heather Pitty Podcast. This podcast is about going after the life that you're made for, not just surviving life, but actually thriving. So thanks for joining us. Let's jump in. Oh, hello. It's so fun to have you, Michele and Eric. We've been trying to get this on the docket for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a bit, but we are beyond thrilled to do this right now.
Very excited.
Oh, I am too. And the reason why I asked Eric and Michele both to join me in this conversation today was really this idea of we all are trying to step into the life that we're made for. We're all trying to move into a life of thriving, not surviving. So the more I can open up these conversations for everybody, I think we join our collective clarity together and say, oh, I like when she said that or he said that. And so that's my purpose, just to open up the conversation for everyone so that we can just learn from one another. So I'm going to toss the ball back over to you and tell our listeners a little bit of what you do and how you got into it.
Sure. Yeah. So I love the theme of your podcast of the thriving, not just surviving, because literally that's where we were at, but the negative, the opposite of it, not too long ago of just surviving. And we were college sweethearts. We got married and then we ended up being crazy unhealthy. And so with that, I ended up gaining a crazy amount of weight. So I went from about 185 or so to 330 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's just say that the married life and eating the food and slowing down, I loved it.
You guys were having fun, weren't you?
Yeah.
We started having kids right away, and he gained a little bit more of the sympathy weight than he was hoping to,
It was just sympathy weight. I just was trying to really make sure she didn't feel alone.
Of course.
And then what was sympathy weight turned into honestly, lifelong unhealthy habits. And to where, especially as you start getting a little bit older, we were married young. So we were married at 20 years old. So as we start getting older and age starts catching up with you, that weight that once didn't seem like a big deal becomes a big deal. You start getting health diagnoses that are obviously unfavorable, and basic things that you typically are doing are now becoming more difficult, which kind of brought, especially me, to my breaking point. So when I was as big as I was, we, one of the things as a family, we have 4 kids, and we like amusement parks. We like roller coasters. And so we were at the local Darien Lake over here in Buffalo, New York. And we went and I was getting on my favorite ride. And I was like, all right, kid, let's go. It's going to be amazing. And go to get strapped in. And the seatbelt, it doesn't. To me, I thought, man, these seatbelts are getting shorter and shorter. But the reality is that I was getting bigger and bigger, and it wouldn't click. And so I'm, like anybody, you're sucking in, doing all you can to get that seatbelt in there. It doesn't work. The operator is obviously very kind and, politely. I always say I got kicked off, but I was more politely escorted off. And so then you take this walk of shame, right? Because everybody knows why the ride's not riding, especially when you step up and get off. And as I'm walking down, I'm just like, well, what am I doing? Where am I at? Right. And that was kind of just the tip of the iceberg of the health, the poor health and things like that. Throughout my life, we have tried different things to get healthy and to stay healthy. We've tried different programs and fad diets, and you name it. And we tried it and varying success, but nothing really ever stuck. So we ended up, my wife was searching through Instagram.
Yeah.
And the algorithm got us in a good way.
You got sucked in.
You got sucked right in. And there was a weight loss called Center, CENTR, right? And it was one that Chris Hemsworth had put together. And who doesn't want to look like Chris Hemsworth, right? So I'm like, well, come on, I'm 330 pounds. It shouldn't be too hard for me to look exactly like Chris Hemsworth.
Way to think big.
Right, exactly. Yep. I'm like, hey, this should be easy. So it was a 7-day free trial. We started it off, and in the first 7 days, I lost about 5 pounds. Now, which was pretty substantial. But the thing that kind of was the kicker for us is I looked at Michele and I was like, man, this wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It doesn't seem like I worked hard enough to lose 5 pounds. And so we kind of were like, well, let's give this a shot, right? So we ended up giving it a shot. 18 months later, I've literally lost 165 pounds. So I'm less than I was in college.
Wow.
I am very healthy. So it's not like I, went crazy and got unhealthy. Like my doctor, all my levels are good and my doctor's just as blown away as we are. So that kind of long background to say, how do we get into it? Well, we were old. I mean, we weren't in our 20s. Not that we're crazy old, but like
your metabolism slows down and things. We have 4 teenage kids and things aren't as easy. We don't have as much time to devote to something like that. So we were like, okay.
Yeah. With a family of 6, we don't have, infinite amount of money to be able to invest in personal trainers and expensive gym memberships and stuff. And through like these basic practical steps that we've learned, both nutrition and fitness, and definitely far outside of that as well, we learned that it's a lot of times like the secret is in the basic. The secret is in the simple of being healthy. And so we were like, man, like if we can do this through the simple and through the basic, like anybody can, because we're not anything crazy special. Like, I mean, I think my wife is the most amazing person on the planet. So she's definitely special, but there's nothing crazy about me. Like we're just regular people. We're 40 some adults that have, 4 kids and careers. And we're able to really turn our life around to where we're seriously in a very thriving mode now. Like everything is very exciting and different.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And so that's where we started this company called The Rudimentary Life. And so that story to say like, that's what we're doing now is like, we have this idea of we want to be able to teach and coach and work with people to say like, hey, just so you know, like the life that you want is not as far out of reach as you might think it is.
You're not too far gone. You're not too old. You're not too busy. It's not a financial thing. Like you can change your life in a sustainable way to where you're happy and healthy and thriving.
Right.
If we can do it, anyone can do it. And that's what we wanted to share through the Rudimentary Life.
Correct.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit of what it looks like to engage with you in the Rudimentary Life.
Yeah, sure. So if you go to therudimentarylife.com, and so it's RUDIMENTARY. So people always like rudimentary. So that's how you spell it. But if you go there, you see we have blogs, we have recipes. So we try to get 1 or 2 blogs up per month, try to get a couple of recipes up every month. And so you can definitely engage with us through that as well. The best way would be to subscribe to it. But one of the things that we have there is in the top corner, there's like a work with us button there. And with that work with us button, we have this program that like we built out. And I know that we were talking before, like one of our mutual friends is Bob Goff, that I was talking with him through this program. And he was like, what you should name this, Eric? He's like, you should name this Find Your Feet. And I was like, oh, like Find Your Feet. Like, it's a great name, Bob. Like, why do you think that? He's like, for one, when you lose weight, like when you're really big, you look down, all you see is your gut, not your feet. So you want to find your feet as you lose the weight. He's like, but also too, he's like, everything you're talking about is just the basic, the simple. Like, let's get back to, finding
your footing.
Finding your footing. Like, what are we really all about here? And I was like, so we have this 6-week weight loss kind of masterclass called the Find Your Feet program. And it is it's basically giving people the building blocks to be able to take the things that we've learned and to say, hey, like you can do this. Like this is all you. Like you can absolutely do this. And it might look different, but here's how it can be done.
So it's to really help empower them to take what you've learned and put it into some sort of workable program that's sustainable for them so that they can feel like they get to do it on their own. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
Love that. Love that. Wow.
I mean, so that's really what we want to do is we want to be able to say like, hey, like, here's what we did and here's the building blocks, but here's how you can take these same building blocks and make them for you. And honestly, like we always tell people, we're like, the building blocks are just that, and they're only going to take you so far. You got to put in the work, right? And so that's why we like one of the phrases, if you go to our website, you'll see it at the top of our blog, is hard, not complicated. So that's probably like there's a couple of phrases that we really embrace, and I'm not saying that we've, that we're the ones who, originally quoted that phrase or whatever, but it was really the idea of like, what you want might not be always easy, right? So for me to lose a whole ton of weight wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but I always thought it was crazy complicated. Like, man, like, I don't know what to do. Where do you go? How do you do this? What are my macros and my micros and what are all these crazy things? And what we learned is like, oh, that's actually not as important as we thought it was. It's actually not as complicated as you would think. It's not easy, but it's also not complicated. So yeah, people can take this and say, okay, after the 6 weeks, you have the building blocks, and we can say, hey, if you want to further engage with us and do some one-on-one coaching for a couple of weeks, hey, we're here. But after those 6 weeks, you should be able to say like, oh, I can do this. And that's like our goals at the end. And they're like, yeah, I can do this. Like, we want to give people hope, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love the idea of hope, but I also love the idea of empowerment. It's how I coach as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk alongside you. I'm going to support you to give you the tools and the skill set so that you can do this on your own.
Yep.
And, my tagline is clarity, confidence, courage. One of the things I started realizing is that people don't understand that they can actually increase their clarity, and there's ways to do it. They can build their confidence, and there's ways to do it. And they can grow their courage, and there's ways to do that. But it made me think of really my confidence section that I talk a lot about in my work, which is having to do with what we believe. The beliefs that move us forward, which I call true beliefs, and the beliefs that keep us back, which I call false beliefs. So I guess I want to go there a little bit with you. I think anyone who's lost, how many pounds, Eric?
So I know I lost 165 pounds, like literally half of the person I was.
Yeah. Okay. So he lost half a person, or a whole person for some of us walking around, right?
Yeah.
He lost half of himself. But clearly that takes a certain mindset. And I guess I want to see if you can speak to this. And Michele, feel free to chime in. What was the mindset when you were at 300 plus pounds? And then that pivotal moment where you said, what am I doing? Like, I got to get off this crazy train here and I can do something about it. How did that mindset kind of shift into a new way of thinking that really motivated you for the next 18 months? I think you said, to lose 165 pounds. I mean, that's a mindset thing that I really want to talk about. And I want to just kind of get inside your brain and say, what did you do to shift that mindset?
Yeah. So it's so funny to say, because I'm reading a lot about like mindset right now in a couple of different books. So we all, like you just said, have these different belief systems, these different mindsets that we develop. And a lot of times those belief systems end up coming from experiences that are very real, but they were real at one point, real in the fact that they happened. But even the experience or the feelings we attach to them could be lies and not true. So growing up, I was always kind of like a husky kid, right? And obviously not as big as I ended up getting up to be, but, I was never like, the slender, high school quarterback, right? Like It was nothing like that, right? Like I liked sports and I played sports, whatever, but it was never like, oh, this guy's going to be a D1 athlete, right? I was never confused for somebody like that, right?
Right.
And so this belief system I had in my mind, like literally let it like, before it clicked for me. And I remember like, even like, as I talked through it with you, like it was, oh, this is just who I am. Like, this is my lot in life. Right.
Wow.
I'm the unhealthy guy. Like, that's just who I am.
I'm always going to be a big guy. Like, even if I lose a little bit of weight here and there, I'm never going to be the little guy or be the super, athletic built guy. This is just my lot in life kind of thing. Like you said,
which is what got you to 300 plus pounds.
Yep.
What then made you go, I'm over this? What was the mindset that you then grabbed onto?
Yeah. So one of the other things, again, this isn't a phrase that like, I know that we coined it all, but and we've seen different means, different variations of it that we've kind of adopted later. But what happened is like, so being healthy is hard, but being unhealthy is also hard. And that being unhealthy hard started getting harder and harder. I remember my brother, like one of my biggest fans, one of my biggest advocates, like remember one time that we were hanging out and I went down to bend over to tie my shoe. And I got up and I was out of breath. And my brother, not that he's like a super athlete either, but never been in the shape that I was in. And he was like, man, Eric, he was like, you're out of breath just tying your shoe. Right. And so that was hard. And then the roller coaster was hard. Or when we have kids that are like, hey, dad, you want to go play basketball or whatever? And you just don't want to embarrass yourself. And so all these mindsets, then it's no longer just about health. This belief system that I had was transcended health. Like it showed up very obviously in my health, but it was also in like, well, I probably shouldn't do this or do that, or I'd be embarrassed to try things. So I'm like, well, what if I fail? Not only am I big, people were gonna be like, well, look at this big guy trying to do this, right? Or whatever. So it started like permeating like really every part of my life. Well, I probably can't do this either. I probably can't do that. Or it's probably not going to be great. So you really start hindering yourself. So it flipped when we tried this and I started losing the weight. And like after like the first week, after the first 7 days, I was like 5 pounds. Like, wait a minute. Like I remember like when I was thinking, man, I can't wait. Until I see a 1 in front of my weight, right? Because I was 3 something, right? Yeah. 330. Man. Yeah. I can't wait till 199. And when I got to 199, for one, that was a goal that I never thought was possible. And I was like, wait a minute.
Congratulations. I just have to keep saying that to you.
Oh, thanks. And then like, once we hit that, I remember looking at Michele and being like in a realistic way, like, babe, what else have I thought I couldn't do that I could do? Like, and again, I'm not saying that I'm going to run for president or anything like that, right? Because I understand who I am. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, what else is out there? And who else is thinking the way that I used to think? Yeah. I want to be like, yo, man, you can do this. Like, I know because I did it. And I'm not anything amazing. So
it started for you when there were things that you were having to give up that weren't worth giving up. You wanted to hold on to them. You wanted to be able to do these things with your kids, go on roller coasters and all this. And it was, your health was costing you things that were very valuable to you. And you had to then make a choice of, okay, am I going to actually do something about this? Or am I going to continue to live down this path of where I just am going to have to keep giving stuff up? And I think, like you said, that roller coaster was a moment where it finally clicked, like, this isn't worth it anymore. The bad food, the binge watching, TV late at night and eating chips and all these things, like something's got to give because it's not worth it anymore. Right. Being here for my family and doing things and that I enjoy is.
Yeah. Well, I remember even so there was one time I can like remember this like so vividly. Like I was coming home from work and Michele was like, hey babe, are you okay? And this was, years ago. Right. And I was like, yeah, why? She's like, you just never really seem mad, but you also never seem happy. Like you're always just
almost numb.
Yeah. Just kind of existing. Right. And she's like, and you're here and we have fun. So I'm not trying to slam you, but she's like, something's just not right. And like, I was like, man, like that was kind of like, what is going on? Because I knew exactly what she was saying. I couldn't put my finger on it. There was no word for it. Maybe numb is the best word, right? We're just kind of going through motions of just like, well, I guess this is life, right? Like you just get married and get fat and this is it.
Well, and one of the survival techniques we all do this, just at some point, depending on the level of pain or trauma we've had in our background, we have this ability to disassociate. It's why we talk about children, how they're able to recover so quickly from pain. Well, they're learning skills to disassociate. Part of our healing is to learn how to stop utilizing that skill set that we might have overused and disassociating. And so I think part of even our health and our healing and our wellness is really getting back in touch with our body versus when we're overeating and stuffing our faces at night and doing it for self-soothing and comfort, we have really disassociated from our body. We're really doing our body harm.
Yeah.
But we're so disassociated from our body that we're like, this salty or chocolatey thing feels so good. That's all I'm focusing on right now. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I think and this is where I want to dig a little deeper into it. I appreciate your transparency. As you are looking at more of really getting back in touch with yourself, What are you liking about yourself that you are learning and that kind of is surprising you?
Yeah. So, I mean, and you could probably chime in with things that maybe like you see that, or sometimes, that maybe I miss, but like, one of the things is like, I'm not afraid to try anything now. Like, yeah, like I always want to be careful. Confidence, not cockiness, right? Like I don't walk around like, like I'm, the cat's pajamas, as they say, right? Or whatever. Like, I don't think, but just the confidence of being like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. And I mean, even things like we have right here, like a pull-up bar behind us. Like the first time I did a pull-up, like I literally pulled my body up. Like I remember we didn't have the pull-up bar yet. We had one of those basketball hoops that go up and down like this.
Oh yeah.
And I put it level and I was like, I just want to give this a shot. I want to try to do a pull-up. So this was just right here in our driveway. I did a pull-up. I literally dropped off, ran in the house like a kid to tell his mom, but I was telling my wife and I was like, Michelle, I did a pull-up. And so like,
and we celebrated.
Well done. Like, not with an ice cream sundae though, right?
No. Yeah. And I was like, if I can do a pull-up, like, oh my goodness, what else? Right. So I think just the opportunity of being able to put myself out there, of try new things, of being able to discover, like the biggest thing is like a lot of the belief systems that I've attached to, or that I grew up with, or that I've built into my adult life, of being like, wait a minute, maybe that's not true. Maybe these things that I think about myself that I associated with an experience that happened aren't true. Maybe I'm not a big loser like I thought I was. And not that I'm, not that I'm Chris Hemsworth or Thor, but at the same time of being like, man, I bet there's other things I can do that I've been selling myself short on.
I would say the same thing. Your confidence level soared through the roof. Again, not arrogance, but just confidence that, hey, if I can do this, I feel like I can do anything, and that was very obvious. And even just the fact that you were happier. Like, again, not that we had a miserable marriage or a miserable relationship, but like you kind of were that surviving, right? Like, this is just my life. And, just kind of going through the motions, and your countenance, your actual personality even has changed a little bit. He's found something he's very passionate about. Anyone that asks him, oh, tell me your story. How did you lose the weight? And I'm like, okay, hold up, buckle down. Like, you're in for a crazy ride. And it might be 2 hours later that we finish, because he's so passionate. He just wants to tell everyone his story, not because, oh my goodness, look at me and how great I am, but because he wants to share it so other people can have that same success in life.
Right. Well, what I love about this, I remember you first reached out to me, Eric, and I said, yes, I'd love to have you. Let's get you on my podcast. Let's talk about this, because I love anything that's like transformational and sustainable and empowering, all these big, wonderful words, right? And you said, yes, I want to come on, but I want to bring my wife on with me. And all of a sudden I was like, yes, I love that, because what it was telling me, again, as a coach, as I work with people, it's one thing to have your own clarity, confidence, courage, but do you have other people in your life that are supporting you going after your clarity, confidence, and courage? And I can already tell that this is happening here, and it's creating a synergistic relationship. But I'd love for you to speak a little bit to that, Michele. What's it been like to support him in this process as he shifted his mindset? Because you got to be with him almost like growing up with him, huh?
It's honestly, so when we first started this, after the first week of doing center, it wasn't just me, but we actually sat our 4 kids down and said, hey, like, we want to support, your dad in this. I want to support Eric in this. And is everybody on board? Like, we love your dad. We want what's best for him. And, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together. Like, I'm not going to make, 3 different meals. It's not going to be, well, dad's going to get healthy while the rest of us sit here and eat chips. Like, it was going to be a family affair. And our kids aren't perfect by any means. But they're a good bunch of kids, and they were like, yes, absolutely. How can we not, And so having that support system of all of us together, like, it was easy to want to support him because of that love. And as we went through it, I lost 20 pounds myself in the past, year, and I'm still, working on losing some here and there and getting, fitter and healthier and all the things. But it was easy because we were doing it together. It wasn't, okay, Eric's doing this and the rest of us are doing our own thing. You know, we're a team.
Yeah.
We got married at the age of 20, and most people probably looked at us and thought we were crazy. Like, what 20-year-old is ready for marriage, right? But one thing I say that we had from the start and that we still continue to have is we have communicated. We have been in it together from the beginning, and not that our marriage is perfect or that we do everything wonderfully and we never fight and it's just, you know, rainbows and sunshine. But we've got each other's backs. Yeah. And if he's passionate about it, like, I'm going to be passionate about it too. And I might be, you know, forcing myself at the beginning, but eventually it will happen. And he's done the same for me, which has been awesome, which again, makes it just that much easier. So neither one of us feels alone in any ventures that we take on. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things we say all the time is, especially like when we got 4 kids and they're all like, our oldest is 20 and our youngest is 14. And so they're at a very busy ages. And sometimes we lay in bed and we're just like, whew. And so we'll look at each other and she'll go, well, if I'm going to do crazy, I want to do crazy with you. And so, and that's kind of like our life, right? Like, it's crazy. And again, there's some nights where it's late nights or whatever, but for the most part, like, having that community, even, I mean, it's one of the things even I knew when I was large, like, man, like, I have a wife and kids that are amazing. Again, not perfect by any stretch, right? But like, wow, like, without this support system, like, it couldn't have happened. Like, in fact, I know for sure it wouldn't have happened. Like, I mean, there's times where I wanted to eat seconds, and in a very loving way, she'd be like, hey, babe, so
do you really want to eat seconds? Remember how hard you worked today? So maybe, you know. Yeah. And it wasn't ever like degrading or like condescending, but it was just like, hey, and there was times where I was like, yeah, I do. And she would never be like, well, you know, you should. She was like, okay, yeah, here you go. Like, it was never like, but it was always good there, and it got easier and easier. And so, yeah.
What I like about it, what I'm hearing too, is you're right. There's no shame in there, and shame never works, right? We've seen enough of the research. The shame, the fear, and the guilt is not a motivating factor, or I should say it could be a temporary factor or a temporary fix, but it's not a long-term. What I'm loving that I'm hearing is you talked about taking it off pound by pound, and now 18 months plus later, to be able to hear the sustainability factor is always what I'm looking for and listening to. And what I'm hearing so much is just a transparency, just a loving support that we do want to step into a life of thriving, and we're done surviving. Yeah. And it always takes us that moment. Everybody has a story. Everybody has the roller coaster ride story, Eric.
Yep.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent with us on that, because I think we all have those moments. I remember for me, it was 2 a.m. in the morning, and it wasn't to do with health. It was having to do with starting my own company. And I remember just this sense of, you know, sometimes you get plagued with stuff in the middle of the night, and that's when things come to harass you. And for me, it was, I don't think I can start my own company. I don't think I can do this. And I remember thinking, this thought came to me is, I'm the only one that's stopping me from a big, beautiful life.
Yeah.
There's no one else to blame. There's no one else to point a finger at. There's no one else to hold responsible except me, which was beautifully empowering on one level and terrifying on the next. But it was also this new sense of just clarity in my own life that says I get to go after the life I'm made for. Fast forward 15 years later, and I love what I do, but there's no way I could have said, this is what I'm going to be doing. I had no idea. It took that moment at 2 a.m. in the morning to have that wake up call that says, yeah, I'm done sabotaging my own life. I'm sabotaging it. I'm telling myself I can't do this. I'm telling myself I've got to stay put. I'm telling myself that I won't know how to do whatever, attract clientele or figure out the finances or all these big, scary things when we're trying to take this leap. So as you kind of stepped into it and you're starting to realize that your confidence is growing and moving into what else can't I do? Tell us a little bit of how it's going with Rudimentary.
So good. So, so we're kind of at your 2 a.m. spot, right? So sometimes it'd be like, oh goodness, like what is this, right? So yeah, I still have I say a quote unquote regular job, or as our friend Bob Goff says, I am fundraising for what I really want to do right now, right?
I love it.
So we kind of officially launched it just this year, 2022. kind of had a little bit of things before then and then officially launched it. We have had our first class. So we got our first Zoom 6-week class going right now. We're actually going to be on Wednesday doing week 5 of 6. It's a live 90-minute class that we have with our students. And honestly, like the first couple of times we're like, holy cow, like we got people who want to do this. This is amazing, right? And it's funny because even the idea of rudimentary, like, because we talk about it so much and that what we've built together to us seems so obvious now, right? Like it, and so sometimes like you kind of always have that, like what you were talking about, like that imposter syndrome, right? Of like, are we really ready for this?
Will anyone actually listen to us? Is
Yeah.
this valuable? Like, are we just telling everyone things they already know?
Oh yeah.
Or is it helpful? And it's been great so far. It's been taken well, and we're growing. Like, it actually went well the first week. We were like, okay, what's this going to be like? And it like we've been really happy with it so far.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We're looking to launch our next class in May, in the middle of May, which we're really excited about. Looking at growing it out further. We have, we've been asked about, much like, yourself, of, hey, you have kind of a crazy story there. Like, you guys should write a book or do a podcast. So those are all things on the horizon that we would absolutely love to do. And like, I'm a big fan of like, there's work to be done, but of speaking things into existence too. So I'm like, hey, yeah, we're going to do that. Right. And it might not be in 2022, but we want to get there and get that done as well. So
we're taking baby steps because we do have 4 children and jobs and all this kind of stuff. So it's not happening overnight like we'd love it to, but all these steps are adding up to something really pretty awesome. Yeah. We're excited to see next year at this time where we're at, and then 5 years from then, and just continuing.
I keep thinking of that 18 months, Eric. Think about what you did in 18 months, man.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
I can't wait to talk to you in 18 months is already what I'm thinking. Like, please let's just ping me and tell me what you're doing in 18 months.
In 18 months, you're going to be on the Rudimentary Life podcast featuring Heather Penny. Like, we can't wait.
Awesome. I'll be there. I can't wait. Well, as we kind of wrap up, I just want to ask you, what is some encouragement you can leave some of our listeners? Some of us are in all different parts of our journey. We're over here just thriving and having a blast, and we're just cheering as we listen to this conversation. Some of us are kind of at a crossroad of just, wow, what's behind me isn't quite what I want, but I'm not sure what's ahead of me, or do I turn left or right? And then some of us are way over here of just, we're overwhelmed with life. We know we're surviving, but we just feel like we don't know what to do about it. What's some encouragement you can leave our listeners?
So I'll say something if you want to say something. So the biggest thing that I would say is hope, like that there is hope. And honestly, the biggest bit of encouragement I want to tell people is that what you want out of life, and I'm talking even bigger than health, right? So yes, for certain with health, but what you want out of life might not be as hard or as complicated to achieve as you think it is, right? And again, I'm not saying that things are going to go easy or it's going to be like this golden path, right, of like just easiness, but it's not as complicated. And the way you said it was probably best, of like, a lot of times we're our own worst enemy because we have these beliefs that we can't do it. And so I want to tell you, like, from experience, not just saying from a public speaker, from being motivational, but like literally from experience, that your beliefs a lot of times lie to you, and to say that there's hope. You can be what you want to be. You can have the health you want to have. I would have never thought 18 months ago on my life that I'd be doing a pull-up, or that I would be wanting to jump on this, this bench behind me and lift weights, or that this past summer I jogged a half marathon. 18 months ago, like, are you kidding me? I would have never thought that. And I'm saying that, like, it is real. Like it's real. It's not just a sales technique. Like, it's real. And absolutely, there's hope for you to be what you want to be, bigger than health. But I would say that'd be my encouraging statement.
And I would just add, there are so many things in life that we can't control. Like, there's a million things, right, that we have no control over. It is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. Don't focus on those things. Focus on the things that you can control, because there's a lot of things that we do have control over. And when it comes to health or finances or, our jobs or whatever it is that, these different things that we're struggling with, focus on what you can control and take the small steps to make it better.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one big gargantuan step of making a goal to lose 100 pounds in 6 months. That's a huge goal. Break it down. You know what? Today, I'm going to choose to eat healthier than I did yesterday. Today, I'm going to put $5 aside in savings, that I didn't have yesterday. These small steps, these small things that you can control, focus on those. Because again, that'll bring that hope where you're like, okay, I can do this. I can absolutely do this. And it might not happen overnight, but I can do this. I have control. It's not just all up to, the universe and things. Like, I can do this.
Yeah. One of the things we say a lot is be a turtle. Like just that slow, steady consistency. Like, be a turtle. So just, you don't got to worry about switching overnight. You don't got to go from 0 to hero overnight, right? Just be a turtle. Slow, steady consistency. And you'll find 18 months later, you're like, oh my gosh, look how far we came. Like, this is ridiculous.
Wow. And I love that. And you give guidance for the turtle pace.
Yes. Yes.
That's 100%. The hope too I want to help lead people with, because we have so much of and if you just do these 5 things, it'll be amazing. Or if you take this one magic pill, it'll be amazing.
But there's no magic pill.
Good. That's what I want to hear. I want to make sure our listeners hear that.
Yes, there's no magic pill.
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you. And I'm actually going to get on your website, check it out. And I'm already thinking of clients that I can refer over there, because our health is so critical for being a part of thriving in life, and our mindset that affects our health, and the spirit and the soul that lives in this body. It's all synergistically connected. So I just love what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We are honored to be here.
Oh, well, take care. And everyone, check them out on, is it rudimentarylife.com?
Yep, exactly. TheRudimentaryLife.com.
TheRudimentaryLife.com. And I think you also have a social media presence.
Yep. Yeah. So our Rudimentary Life one is _rudimentary_life. And that's on Instagram. And then on Instagram, my personal is eric.p.hall and yours is
michele.n.hall.
Good. All right. And we'll make sure that we get that up on all our social media feeds too, so that people can find you. Thanks for taking the time today. Good seeing you and good hearing you, and just your message and everything you're bringing to our world. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Everything you're bringing into the world. Like, you're changing lives. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Thanks, Michele.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. And please drop a review. It really helps us out wherever you're listening from. And if you want to find out more about your clarity, your confidence, and your courage, go ahead and get my book. And you can find it at heatherpenny.com. Cheering you all on.